Greetings, Earthlings. This is Trevor7, and this video is going to be about the moon. And I do believe this is the first video I've ever uploaded to this channel that's not about psychic abilities. So I wanted to let you all know up front what you're getting into. And you can let me know by giving me a thumbs up if you think it's okay to address other topics, or a thumb down if you think I should stick to psychokinesis only. Alright, so although the presence of a full moon does seem to increase our psychic abilities, I can't for the life of me figure out why. But on my quest for a knowledge, I came across a can of worms that led me down a rabbit hole that I'm still traveling down. But anyway, I was trying to figure out why the moon helped with psychic abilities. So I started doing some experiments, and I'm going to share an experiment that I conducted with you, and I'll do a little bit of video clips and show some things about the moon. So if you're a huge fan of NASA and you really believe we've been to outer space and these photos they show us are real and the animations and stuff are accurate, or if you have no interest at all in the moon, this would probably be a great time to leave because I don't want to waste your time. Alright, so the moon. Basic description, from the mainstream science is the moon's about 240 some thousand miles away. It's about 2,000 miles across. It does not produce any light. All the light you see is reflected sunlight, and the moon revolves in such a manner that there's only one side of it that faces us all the time. And the phases of the moon and the lunar eclipses are all in relation to the alignment of the sun, ball earth, and moon. Okay, so let's start with the lunar eclipse. That's kind of what got the ball rolling for me. I'm going to show a little clip here, and they're going to explain to you why the shadow of the ball earth is red during a lunar eclipse.
If you looked at the moon over the course of a few weeks, you'd probably notice that it looks slightly different every day. The change in its shadow is based on where the moon is in its orbit. We call this cycle the phases of the moon, and it occurs roughly once a month. At least twice a year, however, something quite different happens. The moon passes through the shadow cast by the Earth, causing it to look extremely unusual for a short period of time. From the Earth, the moon will appear to darken and turn a deep red before eventually returning to normal. This is called a lunar eclipse. If we were to look at what happens from space during an eclipse, it would go something like this. First, the moon passes through what's called the penumbra, where the sun's light is only partially obscured. This results in only a slight darkening of the moon. As the moon continues along its path, however, it enters what's called the umbra, where all direct light from the sun is blocked. But if the sun is blocked, why does the moon turn red? When light from the sun goes by the side of the Earth, it passes through a long and thick layer of Earth's atmosphere. Shorter wavelengths of sunlight, like blue, are scattered by the atmosphere, so by the time the light has finished its trip to the moon, more of the longer wavelengths, like red, are left over.
Okay, and I guess that all sounds fine and good, but see how we have a red moon when it's in the umbra? But notice the other colors. We got the yellow, the green, and the blue spectrums in the penumbra. So shouldn't we be seeing a yellow, green, and blue moon also during a lunar eclipse? It seems like whenever you apply good old-fashioned common sense to their stories, it just doesn't pan out, but I'm sure they have an answer. I think that's what NASA stands for, never a straight answer. Alright, but let's see what the real deal looks like.
It was a sight to see, the event we're talking about, the supermoon plus the total lunar eclipse, as you said, once in a generation event. No matter where you were in Tucson tonight, you could see this, a moon rising in the sky, disappearing and turning red.
Okay, yeah, and this is just an ordinary guy in Tucson that documented the moonrise and sunset times and took photos and video of it. There's a link in the description below if you want to watch the whole video. But just based on common sense, if the sun was truly going over the horizon of a ball Earth, the shadow should appear from the bottom up. But that's not what we see.
Oh, look at that. It's already half gone.
Right on. Now how is that happening when the sun is still up in the air? Now how is that happening when the sun is still up in the air? Now how is that happening when the sun is still up in the air?
That is a darn good question, my friend. And it's not like this is a rare occasion. I mean, we had a lunar eclipse after sunrise, and there's lots of documentation of recording this way back, to the 1800s. So, I don't hardly buy that ball Earth shadow thing. Okay, so what you're looking at now is real time-lapse footage of the moon passing over the Earth taken by Discover satellite. So this is the backside of the moon that you've never seen before. And I want you to note the proportion, the size of the moon in comparison to the Earth. And imagine what it'd look like taking a picture of Earth from the moon. Okay, and then secondly, notice there's a hot spot in the middle of the globe, and that the clouds never morph, and the shadow of the Earth or the Moon never changes. I mean, this just looks fake, cheap, and cheesy to me. So, since the animations aren't cutting it and the quote-unquote real stuff doesn't cut it, we're going to take a look at some photos. Okay, so this is just an ordinary photo taken by a fellow Earthling of a lunar eclipse. And what I'm doing is I'm using Movie Plus 6 video editing software, and I'm just doubling the exposure. Now, of course, on a digital photo, you're going to get some, I think they call it pixelation. But I want you to note the uniformity of the pixelation and the lack of the little sawtooth marks that I'm going to show you. So you take any photo from space, and when you do the same thing in my video editing software, just double the exposure, and when we zoom in and take a look at it, see the little sawtooth marks along the edges? Well, this is a telltale sign that an image has been cut and pasted onto another image. Anyone who does any digital editing knows this. So again, when we take a photo taken from Earth, we do the same thing. We get the pixelation, but notice there's no, cut and paste marks. Now this is Earthrise photo, and despite the fact that Earth is supposed to be almost 4 times larger, they went ahead and published this masterpiece. And again, when we double the exposure and zoom in, there's a little fingerprint that I've been pasted in. And here's the second Earthrise photo. They tried to make it look a little bigger to make up for their proportion foobar the first time. But again, when we zoom in, there's a little oops, I've been pasted in evidence. Now, I'm not a photo forensic expert or anything, and I really don't know what this means, but every image you take from space seems to have these same anomalies. So, I don't know. Just something to consider. Okay, this whole moonlight is reflected sunlight. It just doesn't settle with me. We watch the moon, it sort of rolls across the sky, taking the same path as the sun. And no matter what phase the moon is in, I mean, you can have a sliver of a moon or you can have a half moon like you see here. And even when the sun is above the moon, or parallel with the moon, or below the moon, or even below the horizon, the terminator line, the portion of the moon that's not lit, doesn't change in relation to the position of the sun. Now, anytime you change the lighting on something, you can see changes in the lighting and the shadowing. We just don't see that. And then we can see through the moon. So what, is the moon translucent, or is it a blue moon, or why are we, there's reports of people seeing stars through the moon. So how can we believe that this is solid? But the point of this video is to look at where the moon is in the sky, and as I pan over, trying to keep my camera even, notice how the sun is below the moon. But the lighting is off because the lower portion of the moon is not lit. Do you see what I'm saying? Am I really that stupid that I don't get it? Because I don't understand, if we're reflecting light, first of all, a sphere doesn't reflect light. And secondly, if we are reflecting light from the sun, wouldn't the bottom portion be lit and not the top? I mean, I just don't get it, guys. I'm just, like I said, I'm an amateur, and these are just observations I've made that you can test and check out for yourself and come to your own conclusions. And speaking of conclusions, I should probably wrap this up, but I'm going to share one more video with you of an experiment that I performed using an infrared digital thermometer that anyone can buy online for like 15 bucks. But I guess the underlying message here of this video is to question everything. Turns out the status quo is not correct. So this makes it a very magical time to be alive. There's a lot of things left to be discovered, We need to be questioning our origins, our cosmology, our spiritual nature, our psychic abilities, and the general purpose of our existence. So if nothing else, I hope this inspires you to do some experimenting of your own. Seek the truth, and when you find it, spread that truth and love as far and wide as possible, guys. We're all in this together, and it's all about seeking the truth and becoming who we are and reclaiming our divinity and our powers and our purpose. Alright, rant is over. Check out this clip. I appreciate you guys watching. Good day, God bless, and namaste. Hey, this is Trevor 7. It's July 19, 2016. We have a beautiful full moon tonight and gorgeous weather to go right along with it. And I recently bought one of those digital laser infrared thermometer job things, so we can test out this theory about the moon being reflected sunlight. So obviously if the moon is reflected sunlight, the moonlight would be warmer than the moon shade. So we're just going to check that out real quick. We're going to pan down here to my yard, right smack dab in the middle of my yard in the moonlight, and use my handy dandy digital laser thermometer to see what kind of temperature we got. In the moonlight we have 72.4. 72.4 in the moonlight. So it should be cooler when I pan over here and take a temperature of the moon shade under my trampoline. So we got moonlight, moon shade. And let's see what we got. 72.4 in the moonlight, and in the moon shade, what's this? 74.8. What in the world is going on with the reflected sunlight? Now, I don't know about you, I'm not a genius, but I'm starting to have a little bit of a problem with this moonlight being projected sunlight when we can perform little experiments like this for ourselves that suggest otherwise. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Check it out. Question everything.